This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
All right, so the time is 6 p.m. This is the Southampton School Committee meeting regularly scheduled for the month of November. We'll call the meeting to order with all 5 members present as well as our superintendent. And there's been an ask to go out of order for an accommodation, so we will take up the finance team report first. No problem.
Thank you. When I was here last, I presented the list of issues that had been identified, and I think maybe it was Dylan or somebody from the board asked if the next time I came, I could give an update on maybe a timeline. So what I've tried to do, and again, it's not a presentation format. This is really for us, but I don't take any additional time away from the work that I have to do to make it pretty. This is really detail that may or may not be good for you, but it helps us to keep track of what we're doing. There's a number of different entries in here. I just wanted to highlight a couple of them. I don't really have much more to say about the audit, which is on the first page. We have the audit coming up. We expect the auditors, when I spoke with them, said they thought they'd be here by the end of November. They will be putting requests into a portal, which we will receive. It'll be asking for different papers and such numbers for 23. We're going to do the best we can. None of us who are here now were here then, and the books don't do what I would expect them to. The end of the year for 22 does not match the beginning of the year balances for 23 on the trial balance. It's kind of concerning. We're looking at things, but that's just moving along. I think the most important thing to mention, and perhaps it's not one that affects Southampton as much, but it is one that I will report on, is the payroll. If you'll remember, we had 20 payrolls which were not in the general ledger for 24, and none of the payrolls for 25 are in the general ledger. We're in that situation because we moved from our Infinite Visions Tyler Technologies platform to processing payroll through Harper's. Harper's has done a great job of getting things straightened out, all of the withholdings, et cetera, but it doesn't automatically feed into our general ledger. And what I believe the previous business manager was expecting is that we would get a download from Harper's and upload it into Tyler to be able to feed the information into the general ledger. And as I've explored and talked with Tyler Technologies, that's not possible. They do not accept any uploads from any other system. So we have a short-term fix and a longer-term fix. Short-term, it requires a lot of work to summarize all of the information from Harper's. We can do it electronically, digitally, but we have to summarize it. We won't be putting the information in by person. We'll be putting it in by account code or cost center, and then having to do a journal entry to put the expenses where we need to put them. So it's just a lot more cumbersome and time consuming, but that is the short-term fix. The long-term fix may be, and at this point looks like it will be, moving back to the payroll module of our current financial platform. So that remains to be seen, but if we do go in that route, that won't happen until January of 26.
Does that mean bringing payroll back in-house?
Yes. Yes.
I assume that you're exploring all the reasons why you don't want to do that.
Yes, like the filings, the quarterly filings. In fact, as long as we're talking about the quarterly filings, it's actually on here a little later, but it was yesterday? I think it was yesterday when Kim Yusa, the superintendent's administrative assistant, came to my office at 10 minutes of 1 to say, "I'm so sorry." And I said, "What?" And it was a letter that she just received, so November 12th, that was dated November 6th, and it asked for the business administrator to show up in Springfield to meet the IRS field agent at 1:30. So I was not going to be able to do that. because literally we just received it. And what the letter said is that the quarter 2 and quarter 4 filings for Form 941, the payroll tax had not been submitted. So I ended up calling him and just saying, I can't come. And we talked about it, and we're going to resolve it. The really good news is the quarterly payment's about $200,000 plus. And I thought, where are we going to find that money? But actually, it had been deducted from everyone's pay and sent to the government, just that the form was never filed. So I'll just file the form, and we'll be out of that hot water. But it was...
And those 2 quarters are in this calendar year?
Those 2 quarters were in 22. So, in the calendar year 22, which would have been one of the fiscal years 23 and one in fiscal year 22.
Are they attaching penalties and interest at this point?
If when we file it, the deposits cover that, no. If it's just a matter of filing, they won't. They said if we do, I asked them if they had to assess, what could we do? Was there an appeal method? And they said that I could fill out a particular form which would might reduce the fees. So I don't know that we're going to have any. I'll report on that next time. But I think we dodged a bullet there, because I found the information that I can use to file.
So if you get to that point and there are penalties, there's a specific federal law that exempts municipalities if they write an apology letter for penalties. You got to pay the interest.
Oh, okay.
We had to do it in Holyoke.
Yeah. Okay.
And basically, you just blame the predecessor.
Okay.
You're the new person, take care of it, I fixed it, and
okay.
It's not going to happen again.
All right, so I think, I'll report on that, but I think we'll be okay on that one. And that was for Hampshire Regional. That was for the high school. Actually, yeah. So let's see. The other thing I wanted to point out on the positive side is on page 4, in terms of state reporting, one of the things that we were really backlogged on was the MTRS reporting. So the deductions were taken from teachers' pay and sent to MTRS. And once MTRS receives them, they go through an audit process. And in some cases, some of the schools were a year or more behind, and some were less behind. But we've caught up, as it states here. So to various levels. I'm just trying to see if Southampton. So Southampton, the reports are through August 23, and they've been posted and finalized for 24, and they're up to date through September in an initial status. So the initial status just means MTRS has to now review them, and it's ready for their review. They've accepted them, and now they're going to go through their procedure. So that was positive. We were granted an extension until February 1st for the end of the year reports. We'll be, I think, Vito, we're talking, was it next in December, the first week of December with Jay Sullivan from DESE. We give him updates periodically, just as you did last year. And we'll report on our readiness to be able to meet that. Also at that time, he will be talking to us about the very critical element of E&D. And when that's going to be calculated. We know that it can't be calculated on a timely basis because the numbers aren't in there yet in the system to generate the reports that they need. But we anticipate, I would say by January, having the payroll information in and all of the expense information. And we should be in a position to move forward from there. So that's, I'm willing to entertain any questions, but that's the situation there. Of course, we are about to start the FY26 budget process. And that is, well, it'll be easier when we have the FY24 numbers, but we do have the FY25 budget. And I've been going through that and trying to match the numbers that were presented to the various school committees with the numbers that are in our books. And some of them, like in central office, I see that there were some there were some items that were not accounted for. So I'm going through that budget right now with a fine-tooth comb, because in the not-too-distant future, I think it's the first week in December, we need to come to the ADC to present the central office budget. So that's really what we're working on right now, is trying to get the central office budget together so we can present it to all the school committees. And that's kind of where I am at this point.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Good work.
Yeah, great
Thank
job.
you, thank
Really,
you.
really, this is like, really wonderful.
Yeah.
This report is phenomenal. I really appreciate this.
Okay, approval of the minutes of October 9th, 2024.
I just have my note on. I wasn't here last month, so I should be listed in absent.
That is correct.
It's okay.
Did you make any motions?
Take the credit.
Her presence is still here regardless.
Sitting on John's shoulder.
Is there a motion to approve as amended?
So moved.
Seconded?
Aye. Second.
There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
I like you. You're going for the under. I love it.
Good recovery
Okay.
there.
No members of the public present. Circulation warrants, no announcements or correspondence. Principal's report will be brought to us tonight by our superintendent.
Indeed. I don't know if there's any questions on what was shared with you. I'm glad to answer any of them, but one thing I did want to update, and I think this might be on later in the agenda, but one thing that I asked Elisa to really focus on was the security system and the update. Where we are right now, and she had a dialogue with the owner of the company. The last piece of that system is back ordered. We're waiting for it. It's supposed to come in this week. It's the horn, which is integral to the announcement of an issue. And once that piece comes in, it's installed, then the system will be presented trained to staff so that we are ready to move forward with the entire system as designed to be implemented. The school council, one thing that Elisa did ask me to update with respect to her report, there were 4 parent volunteers to serve on the council. Of course, that needs to go to a vote. That's all part of the process with the school council. And the volunteers are responding with information about themselves so she can kind of put together a little marketing packet for each.
Who votes?
What?
Who votes?
The community.
Community.
Oh,
It just doesn't always happen because we
gonna say.
usually don't have that many volunteers.
interesting.
True. And sometimes there's only 2 and then
Yeah.
they're it. But now there's 4, so there has to be a vote. And so once the information is collected, Elisa will put together a process to collect votes on those 4 and who 2 of them will become the parent members of the school council.
Any specific questions on her report? Good. All right. Superintendent's report.
Okay, again, I'm glad to take any questions you might have on what I put in the report. My focus tonight is really about the evaluation process, next steps, and I've had some questions from school committee members around what can be done to support us moving forward. And the reality of our situation really came home to me as I settled in August and September, and I started thinking about what evaluation looks like, what the goals of the superintendent should be, how we might envision a vertical articulation from the strategic plan to superintendent goals, to district improvement goals, school improvement goals, and then down to individual student learning and professional practice goals. And I felt that the most important thing was to really work on relationships, building relationships, establishing trust, reestablishing a sense of responsibility, roles and responsibility with respect to central office specifically. In the time that I've been here, and this is my 5th month, in the time I've been here, one of the things I've tried to do is be a part of and be present in the community. And so I've tried to go to events. I've tried to be at the schools. I want in the classroom, at the nighttime events, at games, at sports, etc. And what I've seen is that each of the schools, each of the districts has a sense of community that's really strong. There's a staff that cares deeply about the students. There's principals who are invested and engaged in making the life of the students and the educators in the buildings as viable, as excellent as it can be. And so the thought that I had was the focus needs to be on central office, on rebuilding trust, on ensuring that people understand to whom they go to when they have a question, understanding the roles and responsibilities of the superintendent, the central office, and what needs to happen to move our districts forward in a positive way. And so what I've been trying to do is share out that vision, that message to everybody that I can at the school committee level. And so really what I'm trying to convey is that we are making decisions at the central office level that are in the best interest of our kids. The lens that we're determining for the decisions we're making is about what's best for students, what's best for teachers, what's best for programs, schools, and districts, kind of in that order. And I think it's important that we establish that fact for everyone, because there's a need for that reestablishment of roles and responsibilities, relationship building, trust building. And so when you look at my goals, you'll see that culture is a huge part of what we're trying to do. And by we, I mean me as the educational leader, but us as a team at the central office. I feel that there has to be a vertical through line from the strategic plan to those other goals that drive the work in the district. And it's hugely important that we create a supportive and respectful environment, that we establish a positive culture, and that we encourage intra-district partnerships and regional efficiencies. And that is really stated quite bluntly in the strategic plan. So what I'm trying to do is live that and message that. And so the ask I have is, how can you, as school committee members, and I'm having this conversation with each school committee, how can that be supported in your role and your responsibility as a member of the school committee in Southampton? How can that be supported and moved forward into the community at large? In your role and your responsibility as a father, as a mother, as a school committee member. And if we each keep in mind our roles and responsibilities, if people understand to whom they need to go to get answers, to get support, to get resources, then I think we'll be able to move ourselves forward in a positive way, despite the fact that there's a list of 20 some odd things that need to get fixed at the central office. Because that shouldn't stop the work that we're doing with our kids, with our teachers. And so reestablishing the trust that we need to have with the principals, with the educators in the building is hugely important. And that is the centerpiece of the work that we're doing as a central office this year. And that is the centerpiece of my evaluation. And so the process was shared with all the chairs. The timeline was shared. There's no earth-shattering information there. But what is, I think, important is a truly sincere belief from the central office. I believe we put together a really good team, and Dawn is proof of that. We have people that are engaged and want to do what needs to be done to reestablish those things that have fallen on the wayside at the central office level. And I'm saying right now that that's how I should be evaluated, and that's what I'm asking for support from the members of the school committees, to echo that message, to reinforce that message, to help us establish relationships and rebuild trust. And that's really, I mean, I get fired up. I truly get excited about this work because it's important work. And you're gonna see me at events, you're gonna see me in buildings, you're gonna see our central office team there. Maybe not Dawn and her team, because they got too much work to do, but Michael and Amy and myself are gonna be out and about, and you're gonna see us. And that's important to, again, rebuild relationships and establish trust in the central office. That's what's missing in these districts.
Questions?
No, I'll just say that when Dr. Byrne talked about this at the Hampshire meeting, the student rep said that they actually know who he is. And that they have not, that's not been their experience in the past. These are juniors and seniors, and they said that they know who he is. Everyone knows who he is, and that's a great start as far as I'm concerned.
I appreciate that. And one of the things that, I'm a softie, it touched my heart when the kids asked me to speak at the academic induction, the academic society induction. That means a lot to me as a first year superintendent. They know who I am, they see me around, they see me at the games, but they asked me to speak at that ceremony. And that means a lot to me. So I'm really excited about that event Tuesday night.
I was gonna say, to echo what Margaret said, was I've talked to a bunch of teachers and they've said how much they've seen you around in Norris, and you were actually in my son's kindergarten class for a while, and were on the floor with them doing yoga. Yeah, and so that meant a lot to hear that. I mean, I think that you're going to do great things, like from this perspective, but to hear it from at parent-teacher conferences that you were in there doing, like, that's cool, because that's obviously not something that's happened before, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Chair's report. We did have an ADC meeting. We discussed the evaluation. We agreed on a timeline and a process, and that is forthcoming. And I believe I don't think it's been scheduled yet, but we are going to return to the chair's meeting with the superintendent once a month. Date and time yet to be established. Hampshire Regional School Committee update.
So we were doing a lot of the same things we're doing here, talking about budget and those goals, et cetera, and so on. The cell phone program is going very well. So that's going through December, and then administration is going to figure out, because it is a pilot program, and to figure out how to continue this. One of the things that we learned is that our students cannot tell time on an analog clock.
What?
Yeah.
Because they have their phones, they have their watches, etc. So they actually had to do a lesson in advisory on how to tell time.
Okay.
And you learn when you're, 6 or 7 or 8 or something in elementary school, and then you don't use it again. So I found that very interesting.
Those clocks at home where you put the time on there and you have to
A little daisy clock. Yeah. When I was a teacher, I did.
Yeah.
similar thing.
Yeah, and there's been, just like little tweaks, such as students, the seniors who eat outside, they don't know what time to come in. And so now there's clocks outside, analog clocks, but they're learning how to tell time again, which is good.
But you learn how to write in person.
And our last meeting was only an hour and a half, so woo! Wow.
Lightning speed.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Were there any updates on the cell phone program, the bags?
No, it's fine. Everything, it appears to be very quickly changing the school culture. So students aren't complaining about it. Of course, some do. You can't do anything without some being concerned. But what they say is that it stopped them from procrastinating. They're getting more done. They're using their devices less at home because they're not as, attached to them, and instances of bullying have gone down as well. That's cool.
So what do they need to do to make it a permanent thing after the pilot ends?
Well, they may or may not, so that's up to them, is how, if it's changed the school culture, we don't know.
Gotcha.
What might seniors get a little bit more of a break, those are all things that need to be.
But there's no like additional cost that will everybody has the bag, so there's
Everyone
no
has the bags. It was a $26,000 investment to get the bags. And some kids aren't even bringing their phones into school at all because they have to lock them up anyway. So it is definitely, I think it's had the impact that we hoped it would have, and how it proceeds. That's up to administration with advice from the teachers and the students. The teachers are completely on board, and a lot of the students aren't. Do you have anything to add to that?
I would just say that you walk into the lunchroom and you see kids talking. It's not this. It's engaged. They're having conversations. They're socializing, and the negative effect of social media on behavior isn't there because it's not that immediate. I'm going to say mean things about you, and then you're going to hear about it, and then it's on at lunch. That's not happening. Things are happening maybe out of school that might bleed into school, but for the most part, it's been positive. The teachers are. I would have to think it's 100%, if not there. But the students, of course, they feel it. But when I stand outside with some of the teachers and administrators in the morning, and kids are like, "Oh, it's in my car." They don't even bring the Yonder pouch in. They just leave it in their car. And so the seniors have senior privilege. They might go out to the car at lunch and do what they need to do. Gotcha. They have access to it. But in the school, in the instructional environment, it's not an issue.
That's awesome.
One of the requests a student did make was to have the ability to make a phone call home.
Good, yeah.
Without having to go up and ask in the office. So there's still a phone in the office. There's another one elsewhere that if a student needs to call home or call work or whatever, they have that ability to do that. Principal Holtz and her staff had a phone installed right outside the cafeteria in the hallway there. And so if a kid needs to use the phone, they walk outside and they make a call. Yeah. They just have to remember the number. Yeah, right. That's part of it. And we were teasing about putting a payphone in, and they're like, "A what?"
That would fix all the problems.
Hey, PTO.
I didn't go.
So that's me too.
Right.
So when I started my report to them, I said, I've been on school committee 10 years at the regional. It's my second year here, and it's boring for the first time ever. There's no drama. There's, we have a central office staff that is humming along. We have problems, they're being resolved, and, it's been just a pleasure this year to just not have the angst. But for the PTO, they, of course, go in great guns. They're so organized. The Holiday Bazaar is coming up on the 23rd. They've done a lot of work for that. And they had their Scholastic book sale. They grossed like $7,500, netted almost $7,000. And they have, that qualifies them for the 50% discount through Scholastic. And they have enough credits to fulfill every single item on the teacher's wish lists. So.
Awesome.
Brilliant, yeah.
They're a great group.
Yeah.
School council.
Nothing yet.
Okay.
We have to have a vote, remember?
Collaborative for Educational Services update.
Next meeting's in December.
Okay. Select board update. We set the tax rate yesterday. Yeah, I can't tell you what it is because I didn't go to the meeting. But
I can guarantee it's not lower than it was.
we're no. I don't think it went back this year. And moving forward, there will be a. I don't know if Elise is going to participate or not, but there is a department-wide Zoom training session on the budget process for the town and how that's going to run. And requests are out from the other departments for things to be in, so it's just moving along. We had the budget and finance team update, new business. Is there any other business that can't wait until our next regularly scheduled meeting? Hearing none. We got the security upgrades update already. Are there any questions, or is everybody satisfied where we are in the process? Okay. And then if there is nothing else for the public, the chair will entertain a motion for executive session under MGL Chapter 38, 21A, subsection 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigation position of the public body, and the chair so declares, specifically the Southampton Teachers Association, and further asks that the superintendent be invited into executive session to join us.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Kim, seconded by Margaret. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, that's a roll call.
Oh, Larson, aye.
Shot eye.
Number aye.
Johnson, aye.
So how do we know?
So the time is 6:30. This ends the public session of the Southampton School Committee meeting. We will not be returning to public session. We'll take a 2-minute break and we'll start again.